Mods are all over. If you look at any game, from Fallout to The Sims to Skyrim, you can get mods in each and every one of those games. That get you anything from money to special dragons, things of that nature. And while most of the mods out there have been good, there are mods that have raised controversy. For example, hot chocolate in GTA San Andreas, and that whole thing about what happened with it. Even back in the day, in the Super NES days, there was mods. SimCity had one of the biggest mods that allowed you to get $1 million to help build your city up. I'm going even further back, and I'm going to talk about a mod that A, striked controversy in its time, B, became a video game that a lot of people played in the arcade and still do today, and C, it was actually unlicensed at the time. We're talking about Ms. Pac-Man. And the mod it was from, of course, was the Pac-Man mod. We're going to deal with that a lot in the Old Kid in the Game today. So as you can see, the main differences we're going to see between Ms. Pac-Man and Pac-Man is, well, one, the name of the ghosts, Inky, Pinky, Blinky, and instead of Clyde, it is Sue in Ms. Pac-Man. Of course, Ms. Pac-Man has the bow on her head and the red lipstick to help differentiate. And instead of one tunnel, there's two, as you can see in this maze. So yes, there were some minor modifications, but this actually caused a huge controversy between Namco and Midway Arcade, in that Midway didn't actually have permission to do this modification with the company it was working with to do so. And it's kind of funny because it became a big lawsuit. The game was initially released in 1981 and had to be sent back, and then it was re-released in 1982 once Namco and Midway got the issues squared away. So it is an interesting little concept to see. I am going to play a few levels. I will put myself back up in the corner and we're going to have some fun. I'll show you how the other differences are between this one and the original Pac-Man. Alrighty, so we're going to try this out real quick. Let's see if I can't get you a couple of the different in-between screens. The basic premise here is obviously a cat and mouse game. Mouse eats the cheese, cats chase the mice. Mouse gets the big cheese and is able to take on the cats. So it's a basic principle. You get to see it in quite a few different games. It's not just here. As I go right into the ghost, it's not just this game that has this principle. There's quite a few variations of it. Wow, that was great. Let's see if I can't get past level 2. Get to show you some bonus screens. This is why I don't play video games as often as I probably should. That was just wrong. That's just level 1. So we're going to... Oh yay, we got through level 1. So that's level 1. Level 1 and 2, and then you get a cutscene. Levels 3, 4, and 5, you'll have a second cutscene. So yeah, we're going to see if we can't get through first few levels. I actually was not as good at this as some of the people I know. I might sneak Dragon on here and let him play a little bit while we talk a little bit more about it and see if he can't do any better than I can. Or maybe even the Warden. Let me start it up again at level 2. We're playing it on the Xbox today, by the way. It's just so I can show you the first cutscene. It is definitely one of those things that people have quite fond memories of. I remember growing up watching this happen. And again, I wasn't always the... Wow, that was awesome. That wasn't always the best one, but I had friends who just sit here with the old... we called them the old Midway joysticks. And I've known a few that broke actually the whole machine because they'd slam it around so hard. And it was funny to watch them. There was many an arcade owner, I think, who disliked how the cabinets were actually built. And would let their frustrations be known to Midway, because they weren't built... I mean, they were built really well. Here's Act 1. There's Pac-Man up top. Obviously, this is after they settled their disagreement. Ghosts hit, and then you go to the next maze. So, as you can see, the escape tunnels are slightly varied on this one. That is a huge difference between this one and the original Pac-Man, in that the tunnels varied stage by stage. Ooh, that was a close call. Which made it a lot more interesting to play. Oh, I was hoping to get through there. And because of the variations of the stages, definitely made for more fun to play versus Pac-Man, where it's same screen. I take that back. There's a lot of people who will say Pac-Man was the better of the two games because you can master the whole Pac-Man stage and pretty much get the Pac-Man break at level 256. I don't know. I like the challenge of having different mazes. Sound goes up as you're getting towards the end. There we go. That was awesome. So I'm gonna get my last life here. Yep, and then I'm gonna see if if I can get the Warden or Dragon to jump on and play a little bit more for us. Much thanks to the Warden. She's gonna take over. She started over at stage 1. Let's talk about some of the controversies that happened with this game. Like I said, this game is in fact a modification of the original Pac-Man, and it was actually unauthorized when it first came out. It ended up with one of the bigger lawsuits to happen to any video game at the time, with the company that was actually making the cabinets for the US market being told to do a cease and desist. At the time, something unheard of in popular in this scope. It'd be like telling United Artists to stop making James Bond movies because they made a Casino Royale with Woody Allen. It's just something at the time that was unheard of, one company going after another. But it was a big deal to Namco at the time because of the fact that they actually had the exclusive rights to Pac-Man. And this wasn't even the this wasn't even the first version of it. It actually was called Crazy Auto at first. And the person had legs, and it was little puff balls that actually were part of it to begin with. Made it really interesting, made it really different. So, you gotta ask yourself, why is this game still so good and so popular in today's day and age with all these great graphical games out there and great things that great improvements to how characters look. Well, I think it's just because it's a basic, simple cat and mouse game. It's one of those where you get to have fun. You get to hear yelps every once in a while when you don't exactly get to what you want to get to. It's really a fun little thing that it's a distraction. It's one of those you can really play this as a mindless game. You don't have to overthink it. It's not like Call of Duty where you have to plan out where you're going to go and what you're going to do and all that. You just kind of have to find where the dots are and pray there's not a ghost at the end of your trip. If there is a ghost at the end of your trip, you die. That's obvious. But I think what makes this one so much fun for people is the fact that, I mean, it plays the same today as it did back when I first tried it in the arcade. And I mean, we're talking about, oh hey, 10,000 extra life. We're talking about arcades where you would sit down and you could actually have your food on top of the cabinet, and if it was a two-player game, one player would be on one side and one player would be on the other. And I'm sorry, I'm just mesmerized by how well the warden's playing. She definitely makes me look secondary. But that's the thing about it. I mean, you know, when you play it as a two-player game, and there was two of you, and there was one that was better than the other one would get the cabinet for longer. But that's just the nature of the beast. I don't know. I think this game still has very much playability. In all honesty, if I had to give it replayability, I'd give it a 4.5. I think it gets a little frustrating at some points when you're like, I just had 2 dots left, and that's the sign of a good replayability. Of course, if you have 1,000 dots left, it's a whole different game. It is it as good as it was as I remember it? Yes, actually it is. I think it's a lot better actually now, because it may not seem easier to me, but it's definitely a game that I like, I play. I still play it today. Obviously I have it on, like I said, the Xbox. This is the Xbox version of it. It is a very basic game. Ooh. Is she going to be able to get it? I'm going to let her finish up this last life. And so yeah, that's my take on it. I'm impressed with it. It's definitely weathered the test of time. Warden, do you agree with that?
Yeah.
She's...
Atari was better.
Huh?
I said Atari was better.
Atari was better. The Atari version was not that good. It was...
You had the joystick and you could control it better. If you broke a joystick here or there, it didn't matter. I wouldn't know anything about that.
So I would still give this game a 4 out of 5. What about you, Warden?
I would agree.
A 4 out of 5? So yeah, so that's a lot of it. That's pretty much all I have about it. So I will give you some final thoughts here in just one moment. So as you can see, this game has held up well over the years. It is definitely a game I would play again, and I still do play. It's running behind me right now, sort of. I think it actually kind of timed out on me. However, it is one of those games that I could still pick up and play today. Warden gave it 4 out of 5. I give it 4 out of 5, even today. Next, I want to talk about Sims. Well, more so in the next episode, I'm going to talk about The Sims. I'm going to talk about how we went from this little city building game into the Sims that people were like, wait, you're living somebody else's life in a video game because your life is that boring, to something that includes seasons, it includes pets, it includes island getaways, it includes so much more. Babies. Well, yes, there's babies in The Sims. There was babies in the original Sims. But it's the fact that so much has changed in that genre. As you can see, it's actually going on behind me. The Warden's playing it. The next time on Old Kid in the Game, we're going to talk Sims. It's going to be fun. I'll see you then.